All right, so yeah, thanks again for the opportunity to speak today. As Tony just introduced me, my name is Stephen Jones, and I'm a development planner for our global carbon capture and storage projects, supporting our new low carbon solutions business, and I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. So today I'm just going to give you an overview of some of our ExxonMobil CCS projects. Just move to the next slide. Okay. So ExxonMobil is the global leader in carbon capture and storage, and we have more than 30 years of experience in CCS technology, and we have an equity share in about 1/5 of the world's CO2 capture capacity, and that's about 9 million tonnes per annum. And then since 1970, we've captured more than any other company, accounting for approximately 40% of all of the anthropogenic CO2 that's ever been captured. We've got projects operating in the United States, in Australia, and Qatar. In fact, if I draw your attention to the bar chart on the right there, we are actually now the first company to have captured more than 120 million tonnes of CO2, and that's equivalent to taking more than 25 million cars off the road for 1 year. You will have seen our recent announcements about the establishment of our low carbon solutions business as a standalone company. And we're committing more than $3 billion in investments in low emission solutions through 2025. And as part of that, we're currently evaluating over 20 opportunities that have potential to be commercially viable, given the right combination of both technology and supportive government policies that you've heard a lot through the course of this forum. And we also have established R&D collaborations with various companies, including Fuel Cell Energy on carbon fuel cell system technology. And we're also exploring large-scale deployment of direct air capture through partnerships, including Global Thermostat, as well as other research initiatives through our energy centres and various universities. Move to the next slide. In addition to reducing our emissions in our own operations, our low carbon solutions business is also looking at bigger opportunities that are beyond our fence line, and that could have a really significant impact on reducing global CO2 emissions. You've likely heard of our plans announced for the exciting Houston Ship Channel CCS Hub. For the past 3 years, we've been studying the concept of CCS hubs in major industrial areas with large, hard to decarbonise sectors that are near potential CO2 storage sites. And we see significant potential for this along the Houston Ship Channel and in other industrial clusters in the greater Houston area. And a project like this could significantly reduce emissions at a lower cost to society than many of the other widely available technologies. Now, Houston's a prime location because there are many large stationary sources, and the plan is to target 50 of the largest emitters in the area. And we believe a project like this could safely capture and store about 50 million metric tonnes of CO2 annually by 2030, and a goal of 100 million tonnes of CO2 annually by 2040. So you can see the significant scale. It's also located near vast geological formations, and it's along the US Gulf Coast, with estimates of 500 billion metric tonnes of storage potential, and that's equivalent to about 100 years of the total CO2 emissions in the United States. So for a large, ambitious project like this to succeed, it will need a whole of government approach, and that includes a lot of the same sort of points that you've heard from other speakers. It's around establishing a durable regulatory and legal framework. It requires adequate financial incentives, such as a market price on carbon or tax credits, and that really provide the clarity and stability to drive investment. And it needs broad industry and government support to turn the concept into reality. And lastly, there around public support, there needs to be an increased recognition of the significant role that CCS in fact needs to play in addressing the challenges of climate change. Such lessons from this project could ultimately be replicated in other areas, including within the ASEAN region. Okay, moving to the next slide, I'll just provide an overview of some of the more than 20 projects that we are currently evaluating globally, and then of course some that are already in operation. Starting from the left to right, we are currently progressing permitting for the expansion of our CCS facilities in LaBarge, Wyoming, and that could add an additional 1 million tonnes of CO2 capacity per year. And that would be on top of the near 7 million tonnes per year that is currently being captured, which is the largest of any industrial facility in the world. Okay, I've already mentioned our US Gulf Coast project with the Houston Hub. In Europe, we are a partner in the Porthos CCS project in the Netherlands, which aims to capture CO2 from industrial sources in the port of Rotterdam. And the government of Netherlands has awarded 2 billion euros to support that project. Okay, moving to the Middle East, in Qatar, we are partners in several joint ventures with Qatar Petroleum, who operate a CCS project with over 2 million tonnes capacity at Ras Laffan. We're currently evaluating options to increase capacity in the region. Moving now to Australia, we are partners in the Gorgon project on the Northwest Shelf, which includes a 4 million tonne per annum CCS project where CO2 is injected into the subsurface through 9 injector wells. Finally, moving to this region, we are planning a CCS hub concept to capture and transport and store CO2 generated by industrial activity in the Asia Pacific region. Now, the first phase of this study has been to undertake a regional study that aims to better understand the CCS potential in the region, and I will discuss that on my next slide. Okay, so this study is a collaboration between ExxonMobil and 3 groups at the National University of Singapore, together with GCCSI. And we're currently concluding the first phase of this study, and we look forward to sharing the results soon. Now, the objective of the study is to develop an understanding of the potential in the region, as I mentioned, and it's really focused on 3 key areas, and that includes geoscience storage potential, the transportation, and then also policy support. Now, the project aims to establish a seriatim of storage opportunities and aims to increase the regional knowledge and understanding in the region to support CCS development and deployment. We hope it will support that. Deployment of CCS, which, as we heard through the forum, is recognised by IPCC as a key technology to achieve the emission reduction targets, and that will also be particularly important for this region. So briefly on the storage, we worked through literally thousands of oil and gas fields and applied criteria to ensure that CO2 could be stored safely in those fields. That includes looking at the pressure and temperature conditions of the target reservoirs beneath 1,000 metres. In the offshore, we looked at fields that were in shallow water below 100 metres to minimise storage costs. And we've also focused on the larger fields which could support multiple years of injection and then sufficient injection capacity as well. Now, using these criteria, we have reduced the fields to about 150 and then applied a methodology developed by USGS to calculate the storage potential through replacing produced hydrocarbon pore volume with CO2. And then we've also identified the adjacent storage potential in the connected aquifers associated with these fields, and then looked at the larger scale at basin scale saline aquifer storage that provides significant additional storage potential. Further, we've also looked at EOR potential, and EOR could be a key enabler for CCS adoption in this region that provides additional revenue for CCS deployment, supporting goals of host governments in meeting their production targets as well. Briefly, the second stage is looking at transport options. And we've considered pipeline transport, which is well established in other parts of the world for CO2. And we're also seeing encouraging advancements in shipping technology, which will be particularly important here given the likely long transport distances required, because often CO2 sources and storage sites are generally rarely co-located. The last one, very briefly, is on policy, and I think you've heard a lot of that through the course of this forum. And what we did in the study was compiled a review of existing climate targets and policies and regulations in the region. So next step, we are looking to finalise the paper, and we anticipate publishing the results in the coming months. Finally, I should acknowledge the collaboration on this project with the National University of Singapore, the GCCSI, my colleagues at ExxonMobil, as well as valued input received from several various external advisors, many of whom are actually participating in this important forum. With that, I'd like to thank you for your time and for your attention.